I actually had someone pretty influential early on in those years tell me that I would never be a songwriter. I wasn't proficient on piano.
It's not always about having the millions and millions of fans, because actually you don't even need those millions of fans to make a living. Anna, thank you so much for coming on board with my podcast. It's so lovely to see you.
Oh, it's awesome to see you too and have a chat. It's been ages.
I know it's really been like a long time, right? Because I've been here now in Germany for 4 years. How long have you guys been back in New Zealand?
For just over 3, because Leon just turned 3. So we got back right before my little toddler was born. So 3 years. Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
It must be kind of funny though, like to be able to tell how long you've been in New Zealand, right? By his age. That must, or like how long you've been back, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit over that now, but I think we moved into the place where we're living right now 10 days before he arrived. So it was all pretty like bang, bang, bang.
That's
Getting home
insane.
and then, finding a place, finally moving in and buying like all this stuff like a fridge and washing machine for the first time, and couches, because before that we'd been so transient. So yeah. And then,
But
hello
I mean, like,
baby.
what would have been the point? Like, I mean, you guys were sort of, as you say, so transient. You were like, you were in you were in Poland recording your last album, and then you were in London performing, and then on ships and all that sort of stuff. I mean,
Yeah
you've been like all over the place. It's amazing.
it was fun times.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Hey, but I wanted to say, thank you so much for coming on board today, because basically the idea is, I mean, the reason why I started this podcast was so that I could talk with, professional singers like yourself and talk about the kind of journey that you go through as a singer. And, I'm sorry, I'm looking at you like down there and then you're like up there. Like, I should like look at you, and talk about the whole journey of a singer and like what it actually takes to be a professional singer, because you are, a full-time singer, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Full-time. Wow. Part-time singer, part-time mom. Yeah. It's quite a juggle.
I can imagine,
Yes.
because you're
Yeah.
like juggling, like when can you practice, when when is he sleeping, when, if you got time, you're going to do calls. I mean, I can't imagine how busy that must be.
Yeah, it's certainly different to do the juggle side of things, and beforehand you kind of get to be a bit more one-minded. um yeah, particularly when it comes to like self-care, and you want to be well rested as a singer. Eat well, have sleep, things like that. It's like, it's a little tricky once you've added children. But no,
Well, I mean,
it's
I can say I can imagine, because I work with children and they're rather, a lot of work, but I don't obviously have any, but, your, so what was your, I mean, obviously, Anna,
yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know actually if it's written anywhere apart from like this one newspaper clipping that my dad has from like the Waikato Times from when we did our concert like 10 years ago together.
Yeah.
But you and I went to St. Peter's School together, and like
Yeah.
we've known each other for ages now. And actually, it's funny because
Half
your
our
birthday,
lives.
I know, right? Like even
Yes.
longer than that, because I think you came when we were like 13, right, to school?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the end of the third form year. And I
Crazy.
I I remember because I was like the new singer on the block, because it was like Zoe was like this, you were like the singer, and then it was like, what do you sing as well? It's like there's another singer.
There's another singer in the
There's
block.
another singer coming
There
to
is.
school in our year. Yes.
I will admit though, I mean, you probably already realized that at the time. That was like so hard for me, because it was like I just remember but I think what I didn't realize was actually graciousness and just like accepting would have been a much better option, and like would have been so much more better for me to just go, actually there is so much here for everyone to have like their little bit of a share. And I think at that time, especially when I was at high school, I think I was just so jealous of you and like
Oh,
jealous of everything at the school.
probably went both ways. It was, but, and you know what? People are just funny because, because we're both singers, they immediately like, you know, not pit each other, pit you against each other, but they create this kind of dynamic. And it really didn't, I didn't want it to be that way. That's for sure. I didn't want anyone even to know coming in that I was a singer. It was like, I just want, yeah, I sing, I like to sing. That's kind of part of why I'm changing schools, because, obviously St. Peter's had this really dynamic, music culture and excellence, and it was just pretty amazing place to, if you were into the music and the arts and theater, and
that was the whole reason why I went there.
Exactly.
And obviously that was the whole reason why you went there as well. So, it was bound to happen. But that's so interesting, isn't it? I think that obviously this like hindsight is a wonderful thing, but it's nice that we get to, that we get to catch up now and see, how things kind of progressed a little bit, because, talking about high school, you obviously, I mean, as I say, for me, it's really about like a bit of a journey. I know you're bringing out your album soon, and, but you've also brought out albums before this. So I saw that you were posting about, when did you put your first album out?
So I was 14, and so I'd been, because I started out singing on stage when I was about 7, doing country and western music and folk songs, and then I had classical lessons when I was about 11. So I was just singing all of these songs, and someone was like, oh, you should go and get them recorded, get your voice recorded at this age, what it sounds like. So that's exactly what we did. I just basically went in with my singing teacher at the time, Avis Pinnell, and she played piano, I sang, and we just kind of recorded all of the songs that I was singing, that I'd sung in, the good old classical competitions and things like that, and then had some photos taken and called it an album. So yeah,
that's so cool. But amazing that someone like gave you that kind of push right at the beginning and said, you should really record this. Did you find that gave you sort of the bug right I mean, obviously you've sung from a really young age. I mean, did you always want to be a singer in that case?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, from very young. And I mean, early on, I think I was the one that was driving it as well. I mean, I sort of told my parents, basically, I was like, I want to go sing. My cousins asked me to sing at their local club. I want to go sing there. Like, by the way, I've booked myself in. Like, can you come and drive me? Cool. So yeah, I was always entertaining. I mean, I'm sure you were the same. I was always just entertaining everybody at home, and I'd do little home concerts, and so yeah, it's always felt an extension of myself. And particularly once I started having that, getting that bug, as you say, of performing on stage, I was hooked. I was like, this is what I want to do with my whole life. This is what I was born to do. Like, this is it.
So cool.
So yeah,
this
is what this album Dreamer is about, really.
Really?
Fantastic. Is being a dreamer. Is I've had this dream. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but I've had this dream since I was very young. And this album, it's 12 tracks, but for the first time, it's probably there's 8 original songs on it. So it's kind of like, and it feels very much kind of spreading across my whole journey. So it's got, the country folk, it's got, my journey through classical crossover, and, obviously I've done a little bit of theatre as well, which I love. So I think it's like the whole person, those years of singing all those different kinds of styles of music, they do in the end inform your songwriting. And so it just feels like a little bit of a, it's my own songs.
That's really cool.
Much more than, my previous 3 albums. So it's kind of exciting.
That must be super exciting, right? Because obviously it takes a lot of courage to be able to put your, especially as, you do sing a lot of covers. I mean, obviously we all do, right, as singers, because we get asked to sing at events, and then sometimes, most of the time they tell us what they would like to hear. So it's, that on that sort of side, it must be, do you find it quite difficult then to write your own music as someone who sings a lot of covers as well? Do you find it hard to kind of get the covers out of your mind and come up with original music?
Yes, I think it's just also hard because I've been singing for so long. It's almost like it's like you've got all these different personas. It's like the 13-year-old, 14-year-old me that was singing classical music or theatre music and singing with orchestras and in the beautiful gown. And that's how people know you. That's how people relate to you for a long time. And so I think it took a long time for me. I didn't start writing until I was in my 20s. I actually had someone pretty influential early on in those years tell me that I would never be a songwriter, that because I wasn't proficient on piano and I didn't play an instrument when I was young. I remember I was dancing and I was singing and I was acting, but I wasn't a pianist. I wasn't so they sort of said, you'll never be a songwriter. It's, I wasn't gifted in the theory side of things. So, and funnily enough, I took that on board. I just was like, yeah, okay, I'm a singer. I sing songs, I think probably that person wanted to steer me down a certain path, maybe towards opera or something like that. So I just thought, oh, okay, I can't really do that. And then it wasn't until my 20s that I sort of started to, I'd written a few songs when I was really young, like some really cute little songs. And I was like, man, that was really fun. Like, why do I never do that? And so I just started writing a little bit. And from that came the songs for Journey On, which was my sort of debut full-length album. And that was the one that when I first went over to Poland and recorded that, it was like a really huge project. We recorded with for orchestra and musicians and strings and a harp player and percussionist, and it was a dream come true, and it was me taking a huge risk as well, to go over there and work with this guy that I in a chance meeting had met in New Zealand, and also work with another producer in London as well, who'd worked with Enya and Clannad and Tears for Fears and some other really cool artists. So it's just kind of interesting how that happens. You started to write your own songs, and it is more vulnerable in many ways. It's a vulnerable place to be, writing and performing your own songs. And I think what I found hard is connecting the two. Is okay, I want to write my own songs. Who, what do they sound like apart from this? If I'd started just with my own songs, what would they sound like? How would they have been informed? What's my style? What's my genre? Because I think, I don't know if you experience this in New Zealand as well. It's like, I'll sing anything, I'll do anything. Yeah. I can do it all. It's like you're trying to be versatile to get the gigs. But as a songwriter, people like little boxes that they can put you in. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned little boxes, because that's totally right. I think that's not even just New Zealand. I think that's just being a singer in general, right? Like you get asked to sing at the weddings, you get asked to do this gig here, and you have to do that rock cover and this thing, and be in that show. And I think that you do end up being a little bit styleless for a while, because you're trying to kind of be good at all styles of singing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, especially with your own songs, that must be incredibly difficult to kind of go, okay, well, this is what I would like to do. If you haven't discovered that when you were really young, I think that's horrible that someone said that to you, that they didn't think you were going to be a songwriter. I will admit, though, funnily enough, these things, someone said that to me as well, not quite in the same way, but I was going to do some recording and someone said to me, why would you bother doing any recording? You don't write your own songs. And I
Yeah.
was like, and those sorts of things though really do stick with you. But how do you
Yeah.
how do you deal with like those sorts of negative things in your sort of singing world? Because I think a lot of
Yeah.
young singers, they do, you know, the world is full of negativity sometimes, and which is not very nice. But how have you managed to get through that in your singing journey?
I think a lot about choosing this career is you're going to need to persevere. It doesn't matter if you're like the best of the best. Like there's just an element of, I think you've got to have that determination and you've got to persevere. Like you're going to come across failings, you're going to come across rejection. Um, I won't say that I have mastered the art of dealing with, embarrassing occasions or, rejection moments. They still hurt. You want to be a part of it all,
Mm-hmm.
and you want that person that you admire to give you the tick. And I think probably particularly in the early days, you were sort of you have this feeling as a singer that you need someone to make you. You just need that person to kind of be like, oh, like here you are, and take you under their wing and make you a star. Or just you're looking for that person that's kind of going to really believe in you and back you. And I think at the end of the day is you just need to believe in yourself. You need to you need to believe in yourself, and you need to back yourself, because I've also heard really, really bad stories of how that goes down as well,
Mm.
in terms of somebody coming along and they've got their own motivations uh, behind what they're doing sometimes, and then they're not always the best. And yeah, I found that it was really hard to find people that you could just really trust, that weren't in it for something. So that's why I've been self-managed, and I've just kind of kept going, and also keeping I think in front of your eyes why you're doing what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's not about, it's hard. I've got to remind myself, but it's not about the amount of people. Sometimes it's not about, it sometimes really is about the one. And you've got to when people come to you and they say, this song really meant a lot to me. And, I was crying out there in the audience and I just lost someone, or this is going on in my life. And this song really, brought healing to my heart, or I'm just, whatever it is. And you're like, wow, that's it there. That's why I do what I do. It's not so that, you can sort of get the accolades, or it's like you really are doing it because it's a service
Mm-hmm.
to people. It's like, I have this gift. I love to sing, and I love it when I bring joy to others when I sing. If I can do that, then I'm winning. So that's why I create music. That's why I love performing live, because you connect with people. So I think all of that, coming back to that again and again and again, when you get that person that says something really nasty, or when they're like, what do you do? And you tell them what you do, and they're like, oh, that's a really hard sell. And then they just don't don't show you any, and then just give you the cold shoulder. You come back to that. You come back
Mm-hmm.
to like, what, there are people out there that I might not fit in your box. I might not be your perfect marketing package, but there's people that that my music is for, and just keep going. Yeah.
That's incredible. Wow. That's tough. I must say, are you like that is a really amazing mindset to have. Like, I think as a singer, you can get sometimes, I don't know, as people, we can get really bogged down in all the negativity of things. And,
Mm.
in an ideal world, we would all think like that. but I think that's amazing to, to come back to this idea of, well, there's an audience for everybody, isn't there? And
Yeah.
it's not always about having the millions and millions of fans, because actually you don't even need those millions of fans to make a living doing, what we do. You just need, enough to fill the concert and enough to sell the CDs and things like that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be hundreds and hundreds of millions. That's amazing. And so what was your process like when you were, there's 8 original tracks on this album. What was your process like? Because I've been seeing through Facebook and Instagram, you've been recording this for like a long time. So it seems like a long time. Maybe it hasn't been like that long in like the real scheme of things. But like, can you give people an idea of like what does the process look like? Like, how long does it take to record an album like this?
Well, I mean, in my case, this time around, I first started on this album and had the concept. It was originally, I was going to call it For the Dreamers. That was my idea. And 4 years ago. So it was back when we were living in London. And so I actually started the album in Poland. So up until I'd done all my previous 3 albums, Journey On, Divine, and Bold, Brave and Beautiful, all in Poland with Paweł Zarecki. So I had already started, because we were there, we'd started to tick away on some songs. I also visited Israel. He works with someone there that has a studio, and we were doing some songs on there for the album Divine. So I did a music video there. And while I was there, I also started on some songs for Dreamer. So yeah, so it was kind of like there was a bit of a crossover. So that was the very beginnings. And then kind of fast forward to last year, I was, definitely like really heavily working back on the album with Luke Thompson, who is a singer-songwriter, and he lives in Tauranga, where I live now. So cool. we connected back in 2019 and just kind of started the ball rolling with some songs here, finishing things up from Poland, but starting on fresh new tracks. And then we were sort of, basically the timeline was, I shot a music video in March. I developed a show called Songbirds, which was for the folk female singer-songwriters, kind of paying homage to them. And I'd done that at a couple of festivals, and then I was booked into the studio in Auckland to kind of finish the album, end of March and April, and then lockdown came. So yeah, so it was kind of like, so that kind of made it a whole nother year. But I mean, even so, it had still been 3 years from the initial, putting those ideas together. So in total, it's 4 years, and we finished it off the end of 2020. We had some musicians like a cellist from Poland and people like contributing things in lockdown so that we could start to like just finish songs. And then, when we weren't in lockdown in New Zealand, when things started to open up again and I could go back into the studio, I quickly sort of made that happen and went in and recorded the vocals. So yeah, it's a long process. You write the songs and then you go in and then you've got to figure out the arrangement, the instrumentation, and a lot of that I do, in conjunction with the producer. So, you're just jamming, and then you are recording and adding all your layers. And then you normally pretty early on, you put down a bass, kind of like a demo vocal, like a guide vocal, and then you build up, at least this is how we've done it, is build up all the arrangement and then go back in and do your final vocals and any harmonies and, vocal layering that you want to do at the very end. So there's only been a couple of songs that, we've recorded live. So you've got your musician, live, like, guitar and vocal at the same time. Everything else has really been more that approach.
Amazing. I mean, I think that's really interesting because I think a lot of people think that it just, happens overnight. They just go into the studio and they come out a week later with an album. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to think about it as being a whole process. Did you do lots of like rewrites and things like that of your songs along the way?
Yep, there was definitely some, some tweaks. I mean, I basically brought the songs. We didn't change much from once I had brought the songs, to say, look, this is a song that I want to do
Mm-hmm.
on the album. There might have been, I showed him another one. There was one that was like, yeah, I think that it's not this album. It's maybe another one. It's things like that. There was some songs that were recorded that are now part of the unreleased tracks. So, there's probably like 4 songs that aren't going on the album. Some of them that I recorded back in Poland that I just felt by the time we got to the end of it, there was more original songs of mine that I wanted to take up
Mm-hmm.
space on the album.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, so yeah.
Amazing. That's such an incredible process. And but you're saying that you didn't play piano, but you play guitar, right?
I wouldn't really call myself a guitarist either. I can play very basic chords, but I've never performed live with guitar. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel confident to accompany myself, that's for sure. I'd like to get to that stage. It's like one of those, it's like the thing, it ends up lower down on the list of all the other things that you're trying to do. But yeah, so I don't really write. I write by basically just free singing, and a lot of, you do need to create space for that. Sometimes I will go and specifically, okay, I want to write, but most often it's like an idea comes in the midst of life, like you're in the car and you are just singing, and so I'm really good now at just capturing the idea. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there's lyrics, sometimes it's like little bits of lyrics, so you're like la la la, and then like you've got like one line, and then you just sing the melody, and I just keep repeating it, and the melody extends.
Mm-hmm.
um and then I sort of go back, and probably the last thing I do is really look at the lyrics and make sure that I'm using the best words that I can. Or there are songs that just come, that are just like little, like, oh wow, like that just came so easy and so quick.
Cool.
And lyric and melody, and like I think was one of those. It just felt like it just kind of, I was walking on the beach, and that was the first single that I've released from this album, and it just kind of just came. It's very short, so maybe that's why. But yeah, and then there's songs that take a bit longer that you're like, I don't like this bit, or I
Mm-hmm.
want to find a way to say this, but I can't make it work. So yeah, gotta like kind of just spend a bit more time on those.
Oh, absolutely. I think what a I think it's important for a lot of people. You should be able to write songs regardless of whether you play an instrument or not. It shouldn't, if you sing, it shouldn't be you have to play an instrument. I mean, goodness me, how many times have I heard you are not very good on the piano, so you can't possibly be a singer, or you couldn't possibly go and do this, and
Yeah.
performance wise it makes it kind of tricky. But you shouldn't be kind of you shouldn't not write music just because you don't play an instrument. I think that's amazing that that you've developed your process of how to do it. And of course, melodies come to you because, you work with melodies the entire time. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's the same feeling. It was just when you're singing somebody else's song, and then you just sort of start singing away to yourself, and singing out your thoughts and singing out your feelings, and then you're creating a song. And I think I've been really fortunate to first work with Pavo, because he's like a genius. He's like one of those kind of musicians. I
Okay.
mean, like, as in, you know, um amazing improvisation skills, but also like classically trained, a jazz, trained, and he's kind of a jack of all trades. He plays lots of instruments, and he has had dreads when I first met him, and he's like on the piano just going like this, and you'll tell him, share the song with him. I remember you'd share the song with him. You might have really, really basic chords, like you're like, these are like the basic chords, and then he will come up with like the beautiful I don't know, nuances and like rich full chords in place of the really basic ones that you have, and you turn it into something magical, and you're like, yes, that's what I had in my head. And can I have the strings do this? And you'll be like, da 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 da, and he's like, yes, they can. And and he'll program them in. So if you don't have those people, I would be pretty lost, because I can't jump on and make magic things happen on the piano and create this full orchestral sound. You need a lot of people on board. Making that happen. So
awesome. But it does take a village, right? I think sometimes as solo singers you can get a little bit, we can get a little bit kind of bogged down in this idea, but I've got to do it all myself, and we, I especially forget that, the whole idea of bands and having people that are, that do the things that they're good at, they'll do that around you as well. And then you do the thing that you're good at. And I think that especially when you're creating something, I mean, that's incredible that you have that group of people around you as well.
Yeah, and you feed off each other. That was something I really loved, is that I got to be so collaborative, because I was literally living in he had a home studio, so I was living in his home, and and then working in a studio, which was the couple of rooms down. So it was pretty awesome. And then working with Luke as well, it's the same thing. It's like you just go in there and sometimes you have days when it's all just flowing, and sometimes you have days when you're like, I don't really feel like we got very far. So but sometimes that's what will give you the fuel for the next time. So it is very, very collaborative, and
cool.
You need those amazing musicians, really do, they bring their creativity to the table and their ideas, and take it to the next level. So
Oh, amazing. That's so cool. And where can we hear about this album though? Because I know you've got the release coming up soon, right?
Yeah, so the album, there's been a couple of singles come out. So I Am, which is an original, that's already out online, and Wayfaring Stranger, which is the traditional song Wayfaring Stranger, right? But there's also a part original to the song. So it's probably like you won't have heard it quite like I've ended up making my own version of it. So that's out, and then the album is released on April the 30th, and I currently have a pre-order campaign running. So the pre-order is kind of doubling as a crowdfunding to just kind of help raise those final funds and actually releasing the album, because I really wanted to do music videos for people, and I want to print some physical CDs. And of course, as you can imagine, once you've done all the recording and the mixing and the mastering, and you start to run out of funds. So so this is just to kind of really help with that final push of getting the album out there, and that runs until the 29th of March.
Cool. And what sort of things can people get on the pre-order though? Because I think that's such an amazing idea that you kind of collect the money first so that you can finish the album, and then people can get their final CD. I think I've been reading a lot that's actually pretty much what everyone does these days, is some form of pre-order in order to get, as you say, get the funds together. But I know that you've got a couple of other things running along parallel. What else can people kind of get along with the album at the moment?
So there's the album itself. There is a beautiful art print it's an image from the music video Wayfaring Stranger, which is kind of me holding a lantern. We shot it down in the South Island. So it's going to be like a beautiful kind of photographic art print. And then there's another art print, which is an illustration of a skylark bird with all these flowers and lyrics from one of from the title song Dreamer. Mm-hmm. So the skylark just represents, the dreamer kind of gathering bits of inspiration as they go about their life. So that's really beautiful. There's also things like, having me come and perform at your house, things like that. To like, I'm doing I don't know if you've ever heard of like Gallup Strengths, but I have a friend, she's a strengths coach. Okay. So we're really passionate about that. So there's like a thing called a dream session, and you sit down with her and I to go through their strengths basically and try to maximize, what it is that they're doing, and talk about dreams, talk about vision, talk about planning and strategy. And so that's like a kind of a 2-hour session instead of just like, let's chat. It's more like, hey, let's let's chase after your dreams together. And so that's kind of something a bit fun that's there. Yeah. That's and there's all the albums as well. So I think you can order my like full album discography. So yeah.
Oh, incredible. So I'll put a link though down in the description below for where people can get and put some information out about where they can get and the links and things like that into your social media. But
you'll hear the unreleased tracks that way too. You'll hear all those unreleased tracks that you talked about and all that extra stuff. So
are they available on your website at the moment?
Yeah, through the pre-order. So like everyone that pre-orders gets all the singles and all the unreleased tracks. As well as like bonuses, and then there's a private Facebook group and a bunch of like behind the scenes stuff that I'm sharing just for those that pre-order. So that's kind of fun as well.
So cool. Yeah. And amazing. Well, I hope it all goes really, really well.
Thank you.
And that, how many sales have you got so far?
I actually don't know, but I think we're coming up 20%. So I don't know how many actual people that is, but we're coming up 20% towards the goal. So the goal is like $10,000, which I know that sounds a lot, but yeah, it costs a lot. It costs a lot to do a music video, and it costs a lot to print albums. And, I think people don't always understand that it really does cost a bit of money to hire a studio and producer and, all of those things. It costs a lot to create.
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. I think a friend of mine was telling me she spent like on mates rates 40,000 euros doing her album. Like, and that was mates rates.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's expensive,
it really adds up.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how much it should cost, like, because you are paying people, like, and you are also, and you're hiring all these amazing people. Like, it's not just you standing in front of a microphone singing a couple of songs to karaoke. It's like you've got these huge, and as you say, 3 years. Like, there's a lot of work that's gone into this. There's many hundreds and probably thousands of hours. When you think about the whole thing and on the scale of that, I think that's incredible. I think it's amazing. Congratulations.
And you're paying other creatives, it's not like you and I want to do that. I would it would be awesome if everyone could give their time, but also that's part of like, I want to see it that the music industry and the arts are, that they're valued in terms of a monetary value as well, that the violinist who comes in with her years of experience is paid for her work to come in and record on my album, and everyone else. And, so that it lifts, I don't know. I understand what it's like, people asking you to do things for free all the time and exposure and all that kind of thing. You're like, it would be amazing. It would help me if you really paid me for my performance. But so
honestly,
there is a lot of costs that go in.
But don't you find that's actually something that's so, I wouldn't even say that's just New Zealand. That like happens so often in the UK as well.
I'm sure.
It's like, you get great exposure. It's like, Will they buy a bunch of albums? Will they sponsor my next CD?
Yeah, will exposure sponsor my next CD? Yeah.
Will
How many exposure credits do I need to make an album? Yeah.
Exactly. I think that we both definitely have a lot of exposure credits. Unfortunately, we couldn't cash them in like Monopoly. That'd be rubbish. But that's so amazing. And I think every time you've brought out a CD, I've brought it for many, many people in my family tree back in New Zealand. And I think that it's I think actually I didn't do it with the Big Bold I definitely did it with Divine. I definitely like sent a couple of people random Christmas gifts. But honestly, everyone that has your CDs, they just play them at the top of the volume on the speakers, and they just say that it's absolutely incredible. And I think that your albums are fantastic and your work is amazing. And I wish you all the best with the new album. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
I've been really enjoying, likewise, watching your videos and all the stuff that you're doing at the moment. It's awesome. I love it. I'm like, yes, God. Go Zoe.
It's slightly different. Me looking at other singers being successful and going, what are they doing?
Oh no, but I love Estelle and the voice and that whole kind of approach to singing. And so I have been introduced to it. I did the level 1. What is it? Level 1 and 2 in Auckland.
Did you
that week long? Yeah. And it was amazing. I remember going along and thinking like, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. This is like eye-opening. Like just awesome. I hadn't heard people describe it in that way, and really explain all the mechanics.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Australians like to do that. They really like to go into detail.
Yes. Well, you do a great job. They love
the detail. Thank you so much, Anna, for coming on board. It's so lovely to see you again. And as I say, all the best with the album. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Zoe.
Thank you.